Hello, and welcome to Plastik, Your World and Mine, a work in progress showing that is made possible by the National Arts Council Creation Grant. We started this work, discussions, sometime in November last year, and the research and exploration began early this year with many interruptions by COVID, which has made its mark on the process as well as the final work. Due to the need for safe distancing, this sharing, which was supposed to be live, is now shared with you via live stream. And for this, we're very grateful to the Gateway Theatre team, the video team, and the venue for sponsoring this. For the most optimal experience, please change the resolution to 1080 and adjust the brightness of your screen as you see fit. You may also want to access the program notes that are put in a link either in the chat function or under the description that you see. So thank you and enjoy the show. That concludes the performance segment of this sharing. So please stay with us as we set up for the post-show dialogue. Please return to the 3-camera YouTube link to type in your questions under the chat function. Do open the chat box so that you'll be able to see the questions that come in, and we'll answer it live in just a moment. Thank you. Hello, and we're back. So I thought I'd start a little bit with sharing about the process, and then we'll answer some of the questions, and I'll also send the questions over to the cast. Perhaps before I start on the process, we could have everyone introducing themselves. So I think the easiest is I'll pass this mic over in the front side, and then we have the other mic going on the other side. So maybe we'll start with Huay Bin.
Oh, okay. I'm Huay Bin. I'm the director of this showcase.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm one of the performers.
Hi, I'm Jevon. I did the sound.
Hi, I'm Adele. I'm one of the performers as well.
Hi, I'm Yong Huay, doing lighting.
Hi, I'm Pat, and I'm one of the performers.
Hi, I'm Michele. I'm the producer.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I'm the SM.
Hi, I'm Yuxing. I'm the assistant to producer.
Hi, I'm Natasha, and I'm the assistant stage manager.
Okay, so sharing first about the process, which is something that we began talking about sometime in November. It was quite a long process in many ways, but very interesting. It went through a lot of different iterations in thinking about how we wanted to start with approaching the idea or the materiality of plastic, and then questioning what does plastic mean? How do you approach a material, but then really, do we have other connections to the material beyond the physical, and starting to investigate that. And so what was really interesting is we decided on a sort of a phased approach where we would be researching in intensive periods, give ourselves a break, and come back at it. And so for this whole process, the design really changed with every intensive. So we never used the same approach twice, really. Every single one was different. At the ending of every intensive, there was a sort of a consolidation of the ideas and the thoughts through a physicalized, manifested expression of it. And so, I think our appreciation for plastic has been changing as we go. We try to learn more about its makeup, what makes it plastic, what does it mean. So I think those are some of the things that are underlying what it was like for us. Maybe Huay Bin, would you like to say? Okay, so I'll start with one of the questions. We did get one question, which is, what was the meaning behind the jellyfish-like umbrellas? Is it a symbolism for nature? So, yeah.
I guess that, yes, it to a certain extent, it is a symbolism for nature. But also, as we are exploring this piece, what we are looking at is plastic beyond the material, and also exploring the movements of plastic. So I think it symbolizes air. It symbolizes something that is greater, maybe even greater than nature. Something that we don't usually associate plastic with. And I think at the end of the day, what we really hope is that through this piece, you can share our joy in seeing how lyrical plastic can be. Yeah, and the thing is, because when I design the stuff, I don't really explain it too literally for the team, so maybe they have different take on it also. So for us, there's a lot of collaboration in the sense that we keep adding on layers to each other's contribution without spending too much time discussing on it using words. Yeah, so it was more groundwork. And there's a lot of also, as time passes, the chemistry builds up, so there's different interpretation going on. Anybody want to add on to the jellyfish? Maybe lighting?
Well, you know, the prop is there. I have to light it. I think that was one. They are very practical reason. Yeah, but I guess we stuck on with a particular source of light for a long time, and then only in this phase, then yeah, I sort of gotten some other things that could you know, give that breathing effect and stuff like that. So I guess that gave it a little bit more, for lack of a better word, life. Yeah. And I guess, yeah, it's interesting to see how plastic lights up from the inside. I think there's always something magical about that. Yeah, I haven't seen anything else other than plastic that could give that kind of texture, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay, so we also have one more question, which is, what age group is this work for? we have much to say about that. So originally, when we created the work, it was intended for 9 to 16-year-olds. We really were thinking about, you know, how would they respond to this? Do they see plastic and what it means differently from maybe where we're at now as adults? And even, you know, that sense of responsibility towards plastic or about plastic, you know, how do the things that have been going on in our minds filter down for them? And really, we were very curious about that because we didn't want to make assumptions. I think the problem with COVID for us is that we didn't really manage to get the access and the interaction with that age group that we would have liked to have throughout. So in the original design, we really wanted to have a touch point with them at all along the way, and we haven't really had that opportunity. So only through this last phase, we've invited some people, and we hope to just talk with them more about it as we go. But what we did also discover, I think, is that the work should transcend beyond that age group and be something that you know, a wider audience we hope will enjoy as well. Yeah, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think what it is that artistically what we want to convey is within the work itself, which is in the work that you guys have watched it just now. But with regards to the age group, I guess with different age group, we will probably manage it differently because due to COVID, there are certain elements which we can't continue, like say, for example, extending this beyond the theater, going into front of house, and what goes on after watching the show. We were also looking at post-show discussion like this. So it depends on, I think what is now is that the work has got so many layers of the interpretations, and depending on who we are performing to, it will fine-tune accordingly. Yeah.
Thank you. We thought I'll share what Edlyn said. She said, the soundscape for the piece was wonderfully evocative and powerful. I also particularly enjoyed what I've dubbed the destruction scene and was even rather sad when the jellyfishes encountered it. Sad face. So I think, thank you. Maybe Jevon would like to talk a little bit about inspiration for sound and how the process really manifested in what you've been creating.
Yeah, Adeline, thank you for your comment. Actually, I think it's pretty much spot on. I think because this process was like a year-long one, as Melissa shared, and cut into very distinct phases, I think sometimes it can be a bit difficult to really integrate or, you know, put everything back into a coherent piece. However, I think there were certain themes that I was thinking throughout. I think with specific reference to the destruction scene, as you mentioned, I was actually thinking a lot about, I guess, capital and industry, right? Because I think that the point here is not just to encounter plastic in its current form, it's also to think about, for example, where it came from, right? So how was plastic made, right? And it's made from, yeah, like drilling into the ground and fracking is involved, right? So it's a very, I guess, invasive and mechanical and kind of a violent process as well that is very costly all around, right? Especially environmentally. So I think there was that element that I really wanted to include, right? Which is why I think in that part you heard some mechanical sounds. And I mean, of course, that's also relevant to kind of the way that plastic creates a lot of waste and you know, all the kinds of waste processing that needs to be done as well, right? After you make plastic, we use plastic and then you throw it away. So to me, there's a lot of really big machinery involved. But I think mechanical was another word that came to mind for that part, because I think it speaks to a lot of our consumption patterns as well. So I think in that part, I think the performers very beautifully did a lot of kind of choreographed, but really routine movements, right, of really the way we consume and we purchase things in a very habitual and kind of autopilot manner. However, I think having said that, I think for me the point isn't necessarily to point fingers, or what I think, Adeline, as you mentioned, there is a bit of the element of sadness as well, because I think also in designing that part, I'm not necessarily saying that, oh, it's your fault or it's your fault and so on and so forth. I think it's also to create a, I guess, more compassionate understanding of compulsive consumption, in a sense, which is also very much driven by social factors, right? Like people are stressed or something like that, right? You come from whatever, a hard day of work, right? And then you just want to de-stress or you want to decompress. And it just so happens that the way things are structured now is such that the path of least resistance is through consumption, right? Which is packaged using a lot of plastic. So I think, Adeline, as you mentioned, there is that element of sadness, which to me also, I can't help, but it seeps into the last part as well, when the curtains open up and then the jellyfish beings encounter kind of the trash and the destruction. One small note for just the last part is that I think musically I was using, a bit technical, but I was using a lot of fourths intervals, which are quite ambiguous, I think, as far as intervals go, right? They're not something that immediately sound sad or sound happy. And I think that is in line with what the project wants to say about plastic, right? Which is to say that it's not necessarily good or bad. Yeah, it is good, it is very environmentally costly. And it is it's good in the sense that it is functional, but there is a kind of ambivalence to the way that I think I wanted the materials to be presented, and that's how I wanted the emotional layer of music to sit on top of the work as well.
Thank you. Just sort of riffing on that, does anybody else have thoughts about how you feel about plastic now? Has that changed, or you have a different sense of it or feeling of it? Pat?
I think I want to go back to the first question of the umbrella beings. I think that kind of then leads to my impression of plastic till now. I think it's very open for interpretation, that object and the shape, and I think that's my encounter with plastic in this whole process. I think when I first got invited to the piece, my first thought was, oh yeah, plastic is an environmental problem, and how we are using it really badly, and how we're But I think gradually through the process is also, I think we also had a talk with the scientists and finding out how is plastic made, and also I think just playing with it and the process of just playing with it and just realizing that there's so many forms and it's actually very malleable. So I think in how it's in its various shapes and forms, that it's really very beautiful material to work with. I mean, we also tried working with paper. And so just that whole sense of comparing paper and plastic. So I think, my impression of plastic through this project became one it's really beautiful material. And I think like what the director, like what Huay could be having in mind is that in the end, it's not the material fault, it's also how we take it, how we use it, and how our usage of it. So like how the umbrella being, for me, took on many forms and many possible meanings. I think just like how, the plastic itself took on many forms and many meanings for me through the process.
So I think, wow, this has been quite a long process, right? Like I think Pat and I, we started working on this for almost a year now. And I think to spend this long with a material, you would naturally grow an affection for it. And I think that's pretty much been my journey as well. I think plastic is something that is very familiar, over familiar to all of us, and we take it for granted a lot. And yeah, it's part and parcel of our life, but it's something we don't notice. So I think what this process has made me done is to really notice plastic. And I think to add on to Pat, I think the whole process of playing and discovering our relationship to plastic and our body's relationship to plastic, especially in the aspect of movement, was really fun and interesting. And I think we discovered that plastic has a lot of personality as well. Yeah, it's very reactive. It listens to us a lot better than paper. It's beautiful. It can, it holds air. So I think, so I think it's just being more, self-aware, I guess, of this material, and I guess, not seeing plastic as a sort of villain that we so often make it out to be. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, there's another question that was directed at you, Vanessa. So do take the microphone. And I think this question, perhaps other performers can also respond to that. But it says, Vanessa looked like she had a great workout after the performance. Good job. It's from Felicia. I want to know how she felt mentally and physically during the rehearsals and the actual performance.
Okay, let me just think. Where do I begin? I think for me, because it was such a physical piece, and even through our exploration, it's always been physical, and I tried to give my 110 every time I come in. So it's always exhausting for me after a rehearsal or after a run. So what I tap into is that play with the plastic, and that helps me get through it, and it makes it fun for me and it's less work and more fun. And that's how I built my relationship with plastic, because if you watched the piece, then you know that I'm interacting with plastic from start to end. And how do I keep it fresh all the time? Like every time we run, it has to be fun, and it cannot be old and too rehearsed. So for me, it's like, okay, what game am I going to play next? I'm going to play hide and seek. I'm going to play peekaboo. And every run, it's always different because of the environment. Like sometimes we have a draft coming in, and then that's very fun when the plastic catches air. But sometimes the wind is not there. Then what? So it's always, especially the first part, it's always quite spontaneous for me because I don't know what to expect. We have set some stuff, but at any time, I'm thinking on the ball and really playing with it, which is always fun for me because I don't like to get stuck in a routine. And I think for the audience, once you see me have fun, then I think you have fun too. It's just keeping this alive, and then allowing my body to react to that as well, and not like closing up and just be connected mentally or emotionally, but physically as well. Yeah, I think that was important. And once I let I did not restrict myself, then the movement came along, and then things were just more flowy, and there was more breath, and there was more life, and that helped me a lot also. So yeah, it was tiring, but fun. Yeah.
So for the other performers, was there any particular trajectory for you through the performance? Like anything that you were exploring for yourselves in it? Yeah. Oh, still thinking. Okay, do you want me to come back? Oh, okay. Pat's got something.
No, I don't really have something, but I also thought it's interesting in the conversations that me and Adele will have sometimes, in how we also approach performance. So I think a trajectory would be like, let's say, for me, I'll be using the wind, or because some parts it's just you're just walking up and down, so sensing the weight or the movement of the material. And a lot of it is working with specific movement of a character or certain gesture. So I found it really interesting when my conversation with Adele, then when you mentioned about you need an image or a certain, maybe you can talk more about your process. But I thought in that two different approaches towards a same vision or towards the same movement, I thought that for me was quite interesting.
I think what Pat was talking about was the very first scene when the both of us are walking across the benches in our jellyfishes, and just our approach to that. So I think we were discussing how we sometimes just switch off when we're underneath because no one sees us anyway. But when we are actually focused, like we would just, that's the truth. But I think Pat was saying how for her it was very much on the physical task of thinking about so basically, can we say what it is? Okay, it's basically an umbrella that's underneath, and we're thinking of the spine as like part of the spine of our body. So I think for Pat, she really like focuses on the physical task of like moving the spine of the body and like finding air. But I think for me, what changed was just a few rehearsals ago when Pat and I got to sit out and we got to see what Vanessa was doing, and we got to see this world that we are actually in, because when we're inside we can't see anything. And I think that gave me a lot of like sort of emotional feedback, and I think it transformed. Like I think since then I've been doing it with a sense of like being in water, because that's my interpretation of the first scene lah. But in terms of emotional trajectory, it's quite an interesting question, because I feel like I have to compartmentalize a lot in this work, because we're working with like quite two separate spaces, and I like literally after my umbrella, my jellyfish moment, I have to go outside of the theater and come back into this space, and then with scene 2, we're also like doing short bursts of different characters. So you literally have to like come in, do one character, go out, grab your next thing, and come in as another character. So like for me, I'm having to compartmentalize a lot. But
Thank you. That's actually really helpful in sort of taking it apart. And we do have time for one more question, and this one says, as you had quite a long process to create, what were the guiding thoughts that you used to help decide how to edit or discard ideas or keep ideas? Anything else you want to explore in the next phase? Those are actually two questions. I mean, I think one of the big things is to bear in mind that this team has been together for almost a year, right? So everyone was adding and giving input from the very beginning. And so all of that was coming together, and I think that sort of collective thinking and collective decision making, that sometimes you don't, sort of osmosis, and you don't always have a decision moment, I think.
I think, also I think at every phase, I will try to consolidate in some kind of a working draft, but that is always just a starting point. I think what works is that as we work together with one another, the organicity is what is adding on to the work, and everybody is very, very giving. And the common Actually, interestingly, if you look back, I think you have access to the other phases. So if you look at all the phases, actually, it's not that different at all. It's pretty much really layering up, and that there is this common core thing that we are exploring, which to simplify it is, I think what is constant is duality of plastic, and that we are opening up our senses as to how do we feel about the material as a basis. And then everything else just comes on. And also along the way, we were very fortunate to have Gateway as a venue sponsor. So that gave us new elements to play, the theater, the lights. Yeah, so I think it's everything that we meet along the way. Yeah, anybody else want to say something?
While we were preparing for this showcase a couple days ago, when we were still like fine-tuning and all, Melissa and I had a realization that all those little details and explorations that we discovered in the other phases before this were starting to seep in and come in without us consciously thinking or adding them in. I think because it's been in our bodies for so long and they're just like slowly trickling out in the appropriate times and ways, you know what I mean? And I thought that was quite magical because, you know, you don't think anymore, your body knows what it needs to do. And yeah, then collaboration was like a lot more smooth and fun and exciting. Yeah, so that was a fun thing. So how we edited was, I think our bodies were editing the work for us without us thinking about it too much.
I think also because there was a lot of jamming, so to explain what Vanessa is saying about how the body manages to be the editor is because we're playing and trying, and then what keeps recurring starts to be something that you notice and say, hey, that's something that we want to refine or take deeper. A lot of the ideas that appeared in very early phases start to reappear. And I think it's because ideas that are strong also tend to stick in you. Maybe they didn't fit at that point, but sometimes they come back. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that were coming in. I mean, also, I will say, Huay helped a lot to, like, really helped to focus. She did a lot of dramaturging as well. So about really like asking the hard questions and trying to get us to focus. So which is very important. So I think just to close, because it's 5:03, is that the phases are in the booklet that was shared with you. You can actually access the sort of ending of each phase. We have videos for the ending of each phase, and you can see just how different this is. So in terms of, do we have future plans for this work?
We can take this offline and just contact us if you are interested in developing the work with us.
So if you have any other questions, or you want to take, you want to ask questions, clarification, or you want to partner with us in taking this further, you can email me or Huay or Michelle, and we're really happy to talk. Thank you so much for joining us today. Go have a nice tea or dinner. Okay, bye.